Hello chess fans, this is Rick from Chess to Impress with another viewer's game sent to me as part of the collaboration between the largest chess Facebook group called Chess Teachers and Learners and this YouTube channel Chess to Impress. If you want your game to be analyzed and published in video format, please post it on the Chess Teachers and Learners Facebook group with the message "Please analyze my game." This game was sent in by Neeson. It had a time control of 20 minutes for the whole game plus a 5-second increment per move, and it was played in the Kuro chess section, which is chess for primary schools on Lichess. Let's have a look at the game. Neeson was white and he had a rating of 1481, that's a rapid rating on Lichess, and his opponent was Callanman with a rating of 1503. And Neeson opened with the d-pawn, f5, we have a Dutch defense. And here the main moves are g3 or c4, but knight c3 is also possible. e6, and now white normally continues with e4. That's the point of knight c3 to play that thrust in the center. But Neeson played knight f3. That can never be a bad move, developing that knight to its natural square. Knight f6, bishop g5 pinning the knight, and bishop e7 unpinning the knight. Here the main move according to theory is to take on f6, give up on the bishop pair voluntarily, because after bishop takes then you can play e4 again and grab the center. But Neeson played a more cautious move, e3. h6, and now white took on f6, bishop takes, and developing with bishop e2. And now black strikes in the center, and he has this stone wall set up with pawns on d5, e6 and f5. Both players castled, knight e5, and black took it. D takes e5, and usually in a stone wall it is a little success for white if he can swap the dark squared bishops. And here black did that voluntarily. White is a bit better because that bishop on c8 is looking at its own pawn chain. Knight c6, attacking that pawn on e5, so Neeson defends it. b6, queen e1 on its way to g3. Bishop b7 developing. a3 to take knight b4 out of the position. a5 and queen g3 as planned. It's not really clear yet what the queen is doing there. There is no immediate attack on black's king. Queen e7 and queen h3. And that is not a great move. It's really not clear what the queen is doing there on h3. d4, energetic play from black. That pawn was swapped. And bishop d3 to protect the c2 pawn which was hanging. Bishop a6 is a mistake, because now white has a little combination. He took on a6, rook takes, and then queen d3. And it is a double attack. Both the knight and the rook are loose, and you cannot save both of them at the same time. Queen c5 was played, and we're looking at a discovered check from the knight, and Neeson cautiously played the king away. But could he not have taken the rook? Well, he could have, because after queen takes a6, winning a full rook, there is, for example, knight takes c2 check, discover check, king steps in the corner, knight takes a1, rook takes a1, and the tactics are over, and white is a piece up. So it was possible after queen c5 to take that rook, it just needed good calculation. But king h1 was played, as mentioned, b5, and here rook a to d1, or the other rook to d1 is a good move, attacking the knight. Knight a4 was Neeson's choice, attacking the queen. And you cannot take that knight because then the rook falls off the board. But black played queen takes c2 instead. Now he's attacking that knight on a4 with his queen. Queen takes d4, queen takes a4, and queen d7, attacking lots of pawns. The smoke has cleared, black has come out of it with an extra pawn, but white has compensation with his active queen. If you play queen c4, to make sure all your pawns are protected, then rook a to c1 is possible, and white will win that pawn back. In the game, black decided on queen c2, queen takes b5, restoring material equality, rook b6 attacking the queen, we take another pawn, and rook takes b2. White has got the pawn back, but black has done a good job activating his queen and rook. Major pieces are always very dangerous on the second rank. And the threat is very clear. If it was black to play again, the game would be over. So white has to do something against that, and he played rook g1, rook f2 b8, activating that rook, queen e1 and queen e4. Not a good move. It's allowing white to release the pressure by swapping the queens. Queen takes, f takes, and now rook g to e1, attacking that e4 pawn, and that a pawn looks very good. There's already a rook behind it. You can play rook f2 here, and after rook takes e4, play rook b to b2, and you have again two major pieces on the second rank. The position is around equal. White is a pawn up, but black has chances on the second rank. Rook endgames are difficult and tricky. After rook g to e1, black decided not to play rook f2, he played rook f8. White took on e4, and now rook f2, attacking that f4 pawn with two rooks. So g3 is a logical move, king h7, and now Neeson starts running with the passed pawn. Passed pawns must be pushed. It's a complicated rook endgame, but it should be assessed as about equal. h5, a5, h4 and a6. The pawn race is very much in white's favor. His pawn on a6 is now much more dangerous than when it was on a3. While black's moves with the h-pawn don't really lead to much, although we'll see the point later. But the h-pawn is not a passed pawn and is not as dangerous as white's a-pawn. White has an advantage now. Black shows what the point was, h3, and white will now have to be careful of his back rank, as the pawn on h3 takes the g2 square away from white's king. Neeson kept pushing that pawn, rook a8 has to be played, and now we get some tactics. The best way to play here for white is rook e to a4. Let's look at one variation as an example. c5, black has to run with his own passed pawn. Rook 4 to a2, solving problems on the second rank and on the bottom rank. You really have to take. Rook takes, c4, king g1, the king has to be activated, c3, king f2, c2, and those advanced pawns disappear off the board. And this is the end of this line, this example line, and white has a good position, an extra pawn. That pawn on h3 might be weak, but still a lot of rook endgame technique to be shown by white. So all this after rook a8 and then rook e to a4. But Neeson played rook b4 and he had missed a tactic. Because now black could have taken on a7. He did not play it, he also did not see the tactic. He saw it one move later, because you cannot take the rook because of checkmate. After rook b4, black played g5, had not spotted the tactic yet, and Neeson plays rook b8, and he's winning, right? There's nothing black can do. Well, black now saw that he can take on a7, and now Neeson also saw that you cannot recapture because of checkmate. So what to do? We've just given away prized possession, that pawn on a7. Rook b2, b1 is really the only move. Black swapped a pair of rooks and took on f4. G takes and rook takes, and suddenly the tables have turned. Now it is black who is better in this rook endgame, with an extra pawn. Rook c1. That pawn on c7 cannot be saved, but it is not really under attack, because after king g6 you cannot take on c7 because that mate threat is still there. And we see what a good job that pawn on h3 actually does. After king g6, king g1 was played to take the mate out of the position. Black gave a check, and you really should go back to h1. It is very unpleasant for white, but that is the way to play. King f2 was played by Neeson, and now there was rook g2 check, and that loses the h-pawn, and now black's h-pawn on h3 is suddenly very dangerous. King e3, there goes that pawn. White has to take on c7. Rook g2, king f3, rook g5, preparing to march with the h-pawn. And if you play, for example, rook c2 to keep the h2 square under control, then black also wins with king f5, rook h2 for example. We protect that pawn with black, king g3, there goes the e-pawn, and if we now take the dangerous pawn, then we get this position, and this is a win for black. You should know your king and pawn endgames. The black king is on the key square of the pawn on e6. So all that after rook g5 and then rook c2. In the game, white played king f4, h2, and now it is too late to play rook c1 because there will be rook g1 and black will promote. So Neeson tried rook c6, but after black promoted, rook takes e6, check is nothing more than a spite check, because after king h5, Neeson resigned. An exciting and instructive game, especially in the Rook endgame. Neeson played the opening and the middle game very well, but got outplayed in the Rook endgame. Time was not really a factor, Neeson had enough time on the clock, but Neeson's opponent just played better in the Rook endgame. I commend Neeson for sending in a loss. Most chess teachers and learners members send in their wins. But as we all know, there's much more to be learned from a loss than from a win. Thanks to Neeson for sending me this game, and as I mentioned at the start of the video, if you want your game to be analyzed and showcased in video format, please post it on the Chess Teachers and Learners Facebook group. The link is in the description box of this video. When you do so, please tag my Facebook name, Rick Chess to Impress, so that I can find your post in between the many other posts on the Chess Teachers and Learners group. I hope you liked this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, please subscribe to the Chess to Impress channel, and please leave a comment. I will read them all and I will reply to them all. If you liked the video, it would be great if you could share it on social media by clicking the share button on YouTube. You can find me on Instagram, on Twitter and on Facebook. This is Rick for Chess to Impress. Thank you for watching.